Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being with me on this live cast. With better technology, it has made real estate investing so much easier. And one of those things is flipping properties remotely, meaning where you're not living in the same city as the property. So one of the challenges has been ensuring that the rehab itself is moving along according to plan. And I'm gonna show you how I work with my contractors remotely and still get incredible results and get maximum profits. Okay, so finding tips. We're gonna be talking about auctions. We have a finding tip every single week. The most common mistakes when working with contractors, the process of working with contractors remotely, how to choose the right contractor. Our agenda, welcome and updates, real estate news, finding tip of the week, topic of the week, announcement of our t-shirt giveaway, a free tool of the week. So enjoy, we're gonna have a great time today. Thank you so much for being with me. This show's for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial moves, consult a real estate professional, attorney, CPA, or other professionals in the specific subject matter. Everybody's situation is different. There's no one size fits all. DHM may receive payments on the show from sponsors and guests in the form of books, items, discounts, or other remediations. As with anything in life, results come from education, following a system, hard work, and determination to follow through until the end. All right, guys, if you have not already, please comment. Tell me your name and the city and the state that you're investing in. I always love to see that, and I always appreciate it. At the end of today's live cast, we'll be announcing last week's t-shirt winner. So from here on, you'll be competing for this week's t-shirt winner, which we'll announce next week. So super excited about that. Now, for all of you guys that have been t-shirt winners and gotten a cool DHM t-shirt like this, or let's see, we got a few others here hiding, or like this, or a few others. They just fell down, so I'm not gonna reach over and grab them. If you have gotten one of these, please take a picture and post that picture of you wearing it on Facebook. So we'd love to see that. Post a picture of you in your shirt on our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/DoHardMoney. So who wants a free t-shirt? Well, if you do, ask some great questions, leave some positive comments, and do a lot of interaction on the chats. And with that, we'll choose one winner, and that will be our t-shirt winner of the week. So if you are not noticing already, every single week I am uploading a couple of videos. So I have one video that answers a specific question, like how to lose money on a rehab, or how long does it take to do driving for dollars. Now these are shorter. They're anywhere from 2 minutes to 10 minutes, and the answer of that specific question. And as a matter of fact, if you've got a question you'd like to have me answer, all you've got to do is watch one of these videos and put it in the comments, and I'll put that in the queue for a topic that I'll be working on for you and my other amazing YouTube subscribers. In addition to that, we do our live cast every single week, every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesdays, and then that gets the recording of that also gets posted up. We shorten it, but the recording of that also gets posted on YouTube as well. So if you have not already, please hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, the bell notification. Our channel is DoHardMoney.com on YouTube. Leave a comment on the recorded video, but more than anything, the biggest compliment you can give me for giving this free information out to you, and I like to do a free gift every week as well, is telling somebody else about this channel. I really appreciate it. That's how I get asked all the time, hey Ryan, how can I say thank you? How can I pay it forward? How can I? And I say, just tell somebody else about it. Tell somebody else about our channel. Tell somebody else about what we're doing. All right. Now, for those of you, which is going to be everyone, stays until the end, I'm going to be giving away a rehab estimate form. And as we talk about this, how to manage contractors remotely, this is going to be a key element of that. I'm going to give you, we've spent, I don't know how many hours, hundreds of hours putting this together. And I've been working on it for 20 years. I'm going to give it to you absolutely for free. I can tell you this has been a very expensive document for us to make. Okay, let's jump to a property finding tip of the week after I get a drink of water. All right, our property finding tip of the week. We're going to be talking about auctions today. What is an auction? An auction is when a house is being sold in a bidding situation where one person says, I'll take it for 100,000. Somebody else says, I'll take it for 105,000, 110, 120, 100. You've seen those auctioneers in the movies. That's the type of thing. Now, it may not be like that. It may be an online auction. It might be at the courthouse steps where everybody's shouting out their bids. There's a lot of different ways that could happen, but either way, it's a bidding situation, meaning the house will be sold to the highest bidder. But there is an if here, which is types of auctions. There's what's called an absolute auction, which says it will sell to the highest bidder no matter what. If the highest bidder is $100,000, it's going to sell to them no matter what. There's very few absolute auctions. There occasionally is with like leftover crates with stuff that people are going to go sell on eBay or something like that. Those are usually could be an absolute auction, but most of the time it is a reserve. And what that means is that it will be sold if it meets the minimum reserve. Now, this reserve is typically not disclosed. So let's say they'll go through the whole thing. Hey, 100, 110, 120, okay, winning bidder 100, going once, going twice, 3 times. You've bought this for $130,000. Congratulations. Go see the lady in the back, right? Or guy in the back. And so you go back there and you talk to the guy or gal and say, hey, I'm the winning bidder of this. And they're like, oh, give me just a minute. Looks like the minimum reserve was $150,000, so I'm sorry, you don't have it. So that could happen. Or what could happen is, great, give me their information, we'll send it off to the seller, and then we'll get back to you on if the minimum reserve was met. That could be the situation. But a reserve basically means don't get too excited that you're the winning bidder, because if it doesn't meet the reserve, they are not obligated or going to sell you the property. Now, there's 2 types of auctions in real estate. There's public auctions and there's private auctions, okay? I've purchased properties from both. And don't be scared by the word private. So a public auction is typically a foreclosure action. It means the house is being auctioned by the trustee or the court to the very highest bidder. There is a reserve, and the reserve is what the bank is owed on the loan. Whatever is owed on that loan is going to be the reserve with fees and penalties and that type of stuff. The bank can take less than that, so the bank can start at any price they want. If the bank's owed $150,000 and they do a starting bid at $75,000, fantastic. Now, the bank can bid up, or they can just say, you know, anything over $75,000 we're going to keep, or they can keep bidding until it meets how much they are owed with fees and penalties and interest and all that type of thing. So that's what the bank's option. So the highest bidder will get the property as long as the bank is willing to take less than what they were owed, or if it's more than what the bank is actually owed with fees and everything else. So let's talk about foreclosure auctions. These vary a lot by state. Typically, you must have $5,000 to $10,000 cashier's check. You actually make that cashier's check to yourself, and then you endorse it over to the attorney or to the court. It's kind of an interesting thing. And so if you become the winning bidder, most cases you have to have cash, not a loan, within 24 hours to pay the balance. Now that's going to be for public auctions, not for private auctions, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. The sales are typically at the county courthouse. Sometimes they'll be at the property itself or some type of a government building. What's not important is where it's at. It just has to be in a place that people can get to. The first time I attended one, I was absolutely shocked. We were in kind of as soon as you walked into the courthouse, before you got through the second double door, somebody threw over a trash can, put the files on top of that. 5 guys gathered around, and hey, this is the auction for 123 Main Street. Okay, great. And that's really how it went down. The second time I went to, it was outside of a government building, but it was on the steps outside. If it was raining, it would have been, we're getting rained on. So it was outside, okay? And it's not in some nice room, some conference room. This is just out in the open, so you'd be surprised by how that works. Now let's talk about the second type of auction. The second type of auction here is what's called a private auction. This means it's a private company or private seller that's auctioning. It doesn't mean that it's private, you can't go to it. It means that it's owned by a private company or a private seller. Don't get this confused by invitation. Private means doesn't mean you're not invited. Anybody can go to the property. It's a private company that is conducting the auction. And I've got a video that goes through this. It's about private auctions. Check it out. I've got it on my YouTube channel called Private Auctions. It goes into a lot more detail, and you can get a full list there of the private auction sites that you should be checking out and ways to find some properties. Now, with this public auction, Investors Edge will tell you if something's in a public auction. Pre-foreclosures and bank-owned homes, status, you've got auctions, and you can then look and see what's being auctioned. So this is a way you can find out by using Investor's Edge. So we want to get to these prior to the auction, right? So the idea is, hey, how can we get these guys that are in a foreclosure situation and we can get in touch with them before the foreclosure actually happens, before the auction actually happens? Well, the way that we do that is public auction. You can't get inside the home. You don't get title insurance. And you can end up buying a second or third lien. Interest money is non-refundable. Cash the next day in most states. So let's get them before. So how do we market to these guys? Well, we can call them. We can skip trace them. We can use postcards. We can use SMS. So here's what typically happens. There's what's called a notice of default or a lis pendens. Lis pendens means legal action coming. I think. Basically, if they have a lis pendens or they have a notice of entry or a notice of default, it basically means they're probably not paying their mortgage. Now, if they're not paying their mortgage, that is the first thing that the bank or credit union is going to do is say, hey, here's our notice, right? And that is public. Anybody can know if there's a notice of default or lis pendens on a property. That's the whole point of this, is to make it public. But it's not like public that you can find easily. You've got to have a software. You got to go down to the county courthouse steps. You got to dig through some files. It's public information, but that doesn't mean it's easily accessible. There's a big difference between that. So if you find those, then you find these properties. The next thing that can happen is if they don't take care of that, then a notice of sale is actually happen. Could be a few months up to a few years later where a notice of sale actually happens. And then at the notice of sale, that's when the auction would actually take place. It's different time lengths depending upon what state that it's actually in. But once you find out that somebody's got a lis pendens, a notice of default, notice of sale, you can go market to these guys. You can call them. You can send postcards, SMS, emails. And I get asked a lot, well, what do I say to these guys? And what I say is, I'm looking for the owner of 123 Main Street. And I say, you know, it looks like you're having some trouble with XYZ Bank, Bank of America, Bank of whatever, Chase. It doesn't matter the bank, but I like to tell them what bank. Hey, it looks like you're having trouble with this, because then they know I know a lot about their situation. Now, lots of people say, oh, you know what? We're good. We're taken care of. Guess what? The answer, it's typically that's not the case. And so I like to dig a little further and not just take the first thing they tell me. I like to peel the onion a little bit. All right. How to work with contractors remotely. What are we going to cover? The most common mistakes when working with contractors. The process of working with contractors remotely. How to choose the right contractor. So the first thing, when we're dealing with remote contractors, the very first thing, make sure you're getting a full inspection of the property. This is a big mistake I see people making all the time. Many new investors overlook this. Check all the major systems, check the plumbing, check the electric, check the HVAC. Also, make sure you check the foundation. Make sure you check the roof beams. Make sure you check the termite. Make sure you check the sewer line. You want to check all these things prior to the time you buy the property. You want to check all these things prior to your due diligence ending. One of the things that most people don't realize with a sewer line, you can run a camera down there, and the camera can tell you if there's roots growing in it. It can tell you if there's sags. It can tell you all kinds of stuff, and you can do that fairly inexpensively, especially when you look at the cost of actually taking care of a sewer line, right? Like a sewer line could cost you $5,000 to $10,000 to $15,000. You could run a camera down there for $100 or $200. That's a great insurance policy. Be like, no, everything looks good. The more you know going into the deal, the lower your chances are of the unknown. What do I mean by unknown problems that could crop up? What I hate is like, oh, we had no idea about this. We had no idea about that. Well, let's eliminate that as much as humanly possible by making sure we're doing the inspections and we're looking at everything. Okay. You want to know as best as possible what needs to be done to this property. Now, what if you do find out that the sewer has a problem or that there's a problem in the roof trusses or whatever? Well, the first thing you want to do is go back to the seller and say, hey, look what we found. Take a look at these pictures. Take a look at this. Well, guess what? Once you do that, that seller has to disclose that to new buyers. And that's what I want to make sure they understand. Now, hey, seller, you're required to disclose this to other buyers that come along. So you're going to have to tell them, hey, the roof has a problem, or the septic, or what, the sewer system, or whatever you want to say, whatever is actually the problem. But they're going to have to then talk to new buyers about that. So I say, hey, you know what? You're going to have to work it out with somebody. You might as well work it out with me. It's going to cost us this much money to get that taken care of. Let's lower the price and move forward, because you're going to have to lower the price for the next buyer, because you're going to have to disclose these things to them. So that's what I try and do. Now I try and negotiate with the seller, but I want to do all this before I close. There's no way you're going to get the seller to come help you out after you close. It's just not going to happen. And any extra money after the loan closes is going to come out of your pocket. Meaning, if you're getting a hard money loan and you're getting money for some repairs, if there's some expense, we're picking on a sewer line, but let's say the sewer line goes out and it's $10,000. That $10,000 is not going to be coming from your lender. It's going to be coming from you. So that's what you've got to be very careful with. So don't try not to find problems. I want to repeat that again. Most people go in and say, oh, this is going to be perfect. This is going to be perfect. This is going to be perfect. No, try and find the problems. Don't overlook those problems. I can tell you, you will find them one time. You'll find them sooner or later. You might as well find them before you've purchased the property. So find the problems, determine the cost to fix those. Ask the seller for a reduction in the price. Next thing we got to talk about is the scope of work. This is a big mistake lots of people make, okay? A typical contractor is going to take a piece of paper and say, I'll do the whole house for $50,000. Or they might break it down and say, oh, plumbing's $10,000 and electric's $10,000 and the paint's $10,000 or whatever. So the question is, like, with that type of bid, what does it really mean? It's meaningless, right? So how many doors, how many windows, what's included, what's not included? Okay, so a high level bid, windows are $5,000, doors are $5,000, paint is $5,000. Okay, so it's $15,000 to do this job. Well, this doesn't do us any good either, because what's going to happen is I'm going to say, hey, you forgot to paint the basement. They're like, well, that wasn't included. And it says, well, paint $5,000. And they're like, no, that was just for the upstairs. Or it could be like, well, we're only doing the doors in the basement, or we're only doing the windows upstairs. Like, what does this mean if this is the type of bid that you're getting? So there's so many unknown items. The contractor is going to say it's not included. This is extra. And you really don't know. Is he lying to you? Is that what he thought? But it's not what you thought. So you want to make sure you're not having confusion. And the way that you don't have confusion is you have a detailed plan, line item by line item. Okay, this is the type of plan that we look at. We put things down line item by line item. Every item is numbered. We put down what's required, and there's multiple pages to this. It's broken down by different types of things like HVAC or structural or housing or general plumbing, kitchen plumbing, cabinets, countertops, paint, flooring, appliances, bathroom 1, bathroom 2, bathroom 3, bathroom 4, so it's all broken down, miscellaneous, special conditions. So everything is broken down here, and we want to see prices on all of those things and what it's going to take to make this happen. Now, another dirty little secret that most people don't know is contractors hate paperwork. They hate typing. They hate writing. They hate all that type of stuff. The good contractors like to swing the hammer. So if you ask your contractor to do all this, they're going to either throw a fit or they're just simply not going to do it. So you want to do it for them, okay? Make it easy for your contractors. Do it for them. So the question is, what is the process? So using basic numbers, you want to get the property under contract. I've got a video on YouTube, Let's Assess a Rehab, which walks you through and saying, hey, before you make the offer, let's use these things in making a determination how much I'm going to be spending on the property. So basically, you assess the value of what it's going to cost, then you get the property under contract. Now, with that video, we're going to talk about, hey, low grade, medium grade, high. It's going to talk about what dollar amount to use. And it's really simple, because if it's 1,000 square feet and it's $25 a square foot, you times it by the 1,000 and it's 250,000. You don't have to measure every wall. Now, that's not your final bid, but that's your starting point to then get the property under contract. Next, you want to do a virtual walkthrough. Your virtual walkthrough will be where you are putting your scope of work together. You can do this via FaceTime. You can do this via Zoom. You have the contractor there. You have your agent there. And then you schedule a pricing meeting. what's going to happen for the next day. Now, what you're going to do is put the scope of work together. You can use that form, required, we need to do this, we need to do this. You put those types of things on there. You've scheduled a meeting before that contractor has left for the next day. You put the scope of work together, and then the next day you ask the contractor for pricing. Now, don't just send it to them. Say, okay, how much for the window? How much for the bathroom? How much for this? And you type the prices in as they're saying them. Now, if they don't have all the prices for everything, you say, when can you have prices for me? And you don't just say, oh, I'll have them by Thursday. You'll say, great, what time Thursday can we talk? Thursday, 2 o'clock. Okay, I need to make sure you'll be there. That's a firm appointment. Yes, yes, yes. Great. And then you can actually move forward with that. Now, getting your inspections done. If there's concerns, get with the contractor, right? If you've done your inspections and there's a problem, hey, the foundation has an issue, let's get with the contractor. Have the contractor go take a look at that. And then if there's more that's needed, he can update the bid, or we can get a specialist to come in there and we can get a bid. And you want to do that before your due diligence deadline actually ends. Now, having the contractor sign, they're going to need to sign a few things. The scope of work. Hey, this is what needs to be done on the property. And what prices are. A services agreement, which is going to lay out the terms of completion and everything else. Then the next thing we're going to be doing is putting a timeline together. When is what going to be done? So we do a week by week schedule. Now, some things can be done simultaneously. Like you could have somebody fixing the roof while you've got somebody installing a bathroom, let's say. But there's other things that's like you can't put in the carpet until the paint is actually done. So there's some things like that. So you go through and break it out on a week by week deadline. What's going to get done each week? This is going to help the contractor and it's going to help you. Last week, these things should have been done. Were they done? If not, why? This week, these things are going to be done. When will those other things get done that were not done last week? And you're moving this job along. So you go over this with the contractor every single week. You want to get this signed. You want to get this timeline signed by the general contractor as well. Now, the other thing is we're talking about out-of-state or remote contractors, working with contractors remotely. You've got to choose the right contractor. And a lot of people screw up because they just get the cheapest contractor, and you don't want to choose the cheapest contractor. They may not be the best. Just because they're the cheapest doesn't mean they're the best. Now, in my world, there's 3 different types of contractors. There's the TV contractors. The TV contractor is the guy that advertises and has billboards and things on the TV and that type of stuff. Well, I hate to break it to you, but guess what? TV ads are expensive. Billboards are expensive. So who pays for that? And the answer is you do if you hire them. That's who pays for that. Now, TV contractors are convenient because they have sales teams that are going to come out there that know nothing about construction. They're going to give you a bid really quickly. They're like, they've got a system down, but you're going to pay. I typically pay a fourth to a half of what TV contractors charge for the same thing that I'm getting done. And the reason for that is they're very expensive and they have to mark up their prices because of all the advertisement that they're actually doing. The next type of contractor is a contractor that subs everything out. They don't get their hands dirty. This is the guy that pulls up in a super nice truck and has designer jeans on, and his hands are not dirty or calloused at all because he's just subbing it out, which basically means, hey, I'm going to get other people to do everything. I'm not going to do anything, and I'll come to the job occasionally. That's not who I am looking for in my deals as well. Now, the third type of contractor is what's called an on-site contractor. Now, this is my preference. I like on-site contractors. On-site contractors, they basically have themselves, maybe a few other workers, but they're on the job. And the on-site contractor is going to do everything that they possibly can. The only time they're not is if it's a serious plumbing or electric. If it's something minor, they're just going to take care of it. If it's something major, then they're going to call in a specialist for that thing. But if it's just something easy, they're just going to take care of that, which is what you want. And they're on the job every single day. They are swinging the hammer. That's what we want to see. Now, as we're talking about working with contractors remotely, you've got to have a backup contractor. It's really important, though, you don't say, hey, you're going to be in backup position. You don't want to say that because they're not going to be motivated to give a bid. They're not going to be motivated to show up. They're not going to be motivated to work with you later. But here's the thing. Don't decide who's going to be your primary and backup contractor until you've gotten the bids, until you've done the virtual walkthroughs, until you know what the prices are, and then you can make a better decision as to who you want to work with. A big mistake I see people making all the time is they find a contractor and they're like, oh, this is my guy, period, even though they maybe haven't worked with him. And even if they have, what happens if that guy can't do it? We need a plan B. This is always important, but more important is if you are out of state. If you're out of state, this is really, really big. You've got to make sure you've got that contractor that is in a backup position, but not telling him that until you've made the final decision after you have all the information, all the bids, all the virtual walkthroughs, all the scope work, everything signed, and then you say, okay, I'm going to go with this guy. So make sure the contractor, this is another thing, especially if you're remote, make sure the contractor knows there's no extra money. Sometimes contractors think, oh, they're getting a hard money loan. There's indefinite funds. There's not indefinite funds. Basically, whatever's in that rehab, whatever that amount that's been set aside for that, that's all you got. You're not going to get more money. And if there's more money needed, it's going to come out of your pocket. So you want to make sure the contractor's on board, because contractors love doing change orders and additions, that type of stuff. Change order basically means this is what we're planning on doing. Now we're going to change it to this. Well, those change orders are costly. They are expensive. So whatever the budget is, that is what it is, and it's not going to be changing, and the contractor needs to realize that. Now, consider having some extra money for the rehab if you want to, and lots of lenders will let you do this. See if the lender will fund 10% more. Let's say it's a $50,000 rehab, and you say, hey, you know what? Could we get $55,000, $5,000 for slush in case something comes in? So there's some unknown item, which then would give you a little extra money. You don't want to tell the contractor that, but it would give you some extra money if it came and became a problem. Now, timeline with weekly work schedule. This is really important. Each week, you want to set a firm appointment. It's got to have a date and a time. Every Tuesday at 2 p.m., every Friday at 1 o'clock, whatever it is. And you need to make sure the contractor and your agent know this is a firm appointment. You've got to be there. The contractor's there in person. The agent is there in person. This is going to be the agent that's selling your property. Now, agent is going to look at quality of workmanship. So you are doing it virtual via FaceTime or Zoom or something like that. The other big mistake I see a lot of people making is don't pay contractors up front. Wait until 100% of it is installed. Do not pay for materials. Do not pay for partial done. It has to be 100% done, permanently installed, and then we cut a check for that. It's really important. For contractors, if they're good contractors, they're going to have, a lot of people say, well, how can a contractor afford to do that? Quite simply is they can't if they don't have a supply house. So lots of places will have a supply house that'll say, take the stuff out and 90 days from now, pay us. And they build that into their pricing. Well, that gives the ability for them to get it, install it, them get paid, and then pay off their supply house. Good contractors also have lines of credit, or they have credit cards. If they don't have some of these things, be concerned. You should be concerned about that because they should get paid as work is done and done 100%. So one thing we do is upfront, we'll give them 10%, meaning if it's a $50,000 rehab, we will give them $5,000 with permits and kind of getting started in those things. But that's the most we'll do to begin with. Everything else has to be 100% done, 100% complete. And when I say 100% complete, I mean 100% complete. If the sink's installed, but the water isn't going to it, that's not 100% complete. If the water is going to it and it's leaking, that's not 100% complete. Like, we're talking 100% complete. It either is or it is not. There's no 90s or 80s or anything else like that. Now, if you would like to get a copy of my rehab estimate form, all you've got to do is text your email address to 435-294-0433. Text your email address, 435-294-0433. If you like what you've heard today, check out our Find Fund Flip system. Go to DoHardMoney.com/get started, where we have funding, courses, resources, calculators, software, and support. Check us out at DoHardMoney.com/get started. Now, if you've enjoyed what you've heard today, share the live cast link on YouTube with a friend, or check out my podcast, which is called Income Hacker. Again, make sure you get a copy of that form. Text your email address to 435-294-0433. Okay, it is that time for the world famous t-shirt giveaway. And we are going to say our winner of the week is Andrew Johnson. Thank you for participating. Thank you for all you've done. So, if you want to find out who is the winner of the week, show up same time, same place next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to talk about, do multifamily or single family homes make better rentals? If you haven't already, text me your email address, 435-294-0433, so we can get you a copy of that sheet and make it a very profitable day. Bye for now, guys.